Hi folks, welcome to another clip here on my YouTube channel. Before we get into a couple of details about the German leading index, the DAX, about some stuff from the chart technical side, and on top of that from the fundamentals, I would like to draw your attention on that kind of a red button down here at the YouTube platform. So that's very easy, it's just one click and you'll be a member of this channel. On top of that, I'd like to invite you to leave some thumbs up. Very much appreciated if you do so. All right, let's have a look at the chart technical part right now. Look at the chart technical picture. You see the daily picture, so the German DAX from the etc. point. And as you can see, this is a chart technical analysis from the tool from guidance. See that on the right down here. All right, you start at a 100% Fibonacci point, so the starting point from the analysis from the record high from 16,290.19. and going down to this last low here from 14,844.10 as a 0 point. So typically those two levels combined and the platform gives you a couple of Fibonacci retracements like the 76.4, the 61.8, 38.2 for example, and the 23.6. So these levels of interest where a couple of reactions could occur. We already made this, let's say, huge move to the downside regarding this current crisis. You don't see crisis in the charts. You don't see something like this kind of a Ukraine-Russia stuff right now in the chart. What you see is that the reaction of this was quite heavy on Friday, on the Friday close. But besides that, besides all this geopolitical stuff, we had the small witching day on Friday as well, where DAX options and options on single stocks expired. All right, you see a down, so-called descending trend line. And you see a couple of other lines here, like the blue one and the red one. Typically, this is a EMA 100, the blue one, as you can see here, and the 200 here. This is the EMA 200 as a red line, as you can see in the description right here. There is another Fibonacci retracement analysis coming from the last low here, from the 14,844.10, and going up to this last high here from 15,542.84 as a 0 point. So that's just a reason to find out and to just discover a couple of Fibonacci retracements, let's say projections to the downside as well. So that's the way you just do it. And you can see something like a 127.2 or 138.2 projection, and especially a 161.8 projection to the downside here as well. You see these typical arrows I simply draw into the chart technical picture here. The green area as a possible reaction zone to the upside, as a possible target. So that's the half of the whole move from the record high to this last low. And you see two possible targets to the downside. First of all, a retest of that old lows here. That could happen in a couple of, let's say, minutes to the first 1-2 hours of the German DAX trading. And especially that could easily happen before that, before the general etc. DAX open on Monday night, when we see future DAX maybe tanking. Could be. So you see projections to the downside with a 14,412.28, and that's the possible bigger target to the downside here. The last but not least target to the downside, far more to the downside, could be the pre-corona crisis high at 13,795. So that's a possible bigger target to the downside. In addition, you see the relative strength index hovering around that 40 points right here, so still a neutral picture, and that also means that it could be more room to the downside here before it tanks into, oversold territories. All right, you see a couple of chart technical stuff, but all you see is something like lines and possibly something like a support line, this kind of a descending trend line here, and the resistance descending trend line here. Whatever you may see in charts, you don't see fundamentals. And fundamentals, besides that kind of a geopolitical stress we face, is the typical leaning back and think about what is really going on out there. You don't see anything like inflation in the chart. You don't see anything like producer prices skyrocketing. So just let me say, and let me just tell you that, for example, the Eurozone producer prices, they jumped way over 26% in the year 21 on a 12-month basis. And as you maybe know, consumer prices, they jumped almost more than 5%. They jumped more than 5% on a 12-month basis in the European Union. And especially we are speaking about the European Union or the Eurozone on top, so both, because these kind of areas, or let's say these kind of countries, are the biggest target markets of the German economy and the biggest target markets of the 40 companies included in the German DAX. So that is something you should always consider. You need to have something like a target in mind. These kind of companies need to sell. They simply need to sell. And the more producer prices are skyrocketing, the more they face the problem that they really like to maybe transfer that kind of producer price inflation up to the customer, because they want to do that what every kind of a company likes to. They like to move the margin possibly higher, and as long as this is not possible, they lose a kind of a margin play, and the more they are losing that kind of a margin, the more that's kind of a, let's say, earnings are going to be to the downside. And that could mean, the conclusion is usually, that could mean that we are facing something like more pressure to the downside. So that's just simply stuff, and simple stuff, and this is something you should always consider when doing research on top of that, besides all that chart technical stuff. All right. Needless to say, we got Sunday night right now. It's 11 p.m. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. And I'd like just to remember that the US markets are closed, and for example, treasuries are not going to be traded as well, because there is President's Day or Washington's birthday. So the US boys are off. And that's just another point that the German DAX may lose some kind of momentum when it comes to, let's say, 12 at the middle of the day, or 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., where they usually get some kind of impulse from the Wall Street trading. This could be not the case on Monday. So let's see if we have the possibility to have something like a tanking Monday and a possibly turnaround Tuesday. So just the first 2 days thinking about possible moves. All right. Have a great week ahead. Have great trades ahead. And don't forget, do not rush into trades. There is no need to rush into trades. Just have patience. And if there's anything really taken down the road, especially hard down the road, and really trusty stocks like, for example, BASF, Covestro, or other companies like Bayer, this is something like a little bit of an invitation. If they really take the route south too heavy, this is something you possibly could collect. This is no wealth advice, no stock picking advice, just saying there are a couple of good stocks in the German DAX, and as you know, in every kind of an index, there are a couple of bad stocks in there, and should possibly not touch all this kind of online stuff. All right. Have a great week ahead. See you next time. Bye-bye.